called the Studio High Definition.
So no matter what,
And those you can adjust color temperature. I'm just dragging up here from a maximum of 65 profile down to a minimum of 27.
Yeah.
It just thinks it's the wrong thing.
When
It
it's on
doesn't
the
know
wrong
what it is.
profile,
Which goes from
then
100 to a minus
the channels that are assigned to it operate different
magenta
things than what
to
the board is trying to operate. So.
So the board might be saying, you know, turn the tint to a different tint, and it's saying, oh, stroke? Okay.
I didn't know what you
I'm so excited about this.
So when I was
I
telling
didn't
you-
know
when I
that.
was
I
telling
thought
you
we
what
were
they
gonna have to
do
be
different,
like
like,
doing
that's the
gels
core.
up there.
I don't know who I am.
I'm sorry. My
No,
naivete.
the idea is that once we get a setup that works, it stays. Right.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
First one's kind of an experiment.
Once you get a setup that you like, you can do it. You can have the board remember it in a couple of different ways. I'm going to turn on the sight fixtures and do something with them. Like those really something.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
That's really something.
Say that again, what you just did?
I just set a couple of lights more or less randomly. I'm going to demonstrate how to record a setting for later memory for use later. So this board has a set of 60 faders that can be used in a couple of different ways, and you change how they get used with this knob here. The faders. The first 3 settings of faders allow you to use these knobs just to control channel intensity, which you might want to do, but I actually find it easier just to type in on the keypad. So right now this controls the intensity of channels 1 through 40 when it's in its top position, so as I grab.
Are those bump or selects?
These are bump. Okay. So the button, he's referring to what does the bottom button do? It's a bump button. It brings that intensity to full. For that particular channel. The last option is called Submasters, and this gives you 60 places to record scenes that you can then bring back instead of a single channel.
You get closer.
Submasters.
Submaster.
Yeah, it's the 4th option here.
Okay.
When you're in channels mode, the bottom row is always Submasters, but when you flip actually all the way down to the Submaster option here, that gives you 60 handles, all of which are Submaster control.
And we can get board tape and label those.
Yeah.
And we can also label it in the console if we get a keyboard hooked up to it.
Correct. So if I want to remember this scene, I can say record sub 1 enter, or the easy way to do it is say record, hopefully with that.
And you just pushed the
Just
first
put
one.
or it could have been any one.
Okay.
And I'm going to change this scene a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to say record, and I'm going to choose another one at random here. It could be the next one, it could be any one in a row. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these out. And if I bring up that handle, that first scene gets played back, the second scene gets played back if I bring up its handle. So it's remembered those scenes. So if you're doing the way these are usually used in studios is they'll set up their morning breakfast shoot and then the weather shoot and then the various scenes or sets that are in use for a particular shoot. So for your sitcom setup, you could have 5 or 6 or 7 looks that you can go back to time after time. These settings can be saved to a USB stick or to a hard drive inside the console. You can save them, give them a name, or call them later for your own purposes. The important thing about saving and loading scenes is that you have to have the information about what lights are where is also saved in that file. So you want to probably start with a pre-existing one and delete or re-record, or maybe we'll have a default show for you which just has the initial setup done, and then you can build from the individual looks. Does that make sense,
I
Tyler?
think so, yeah, because, well, it will all get screwed up if the lights get moved at all.
Correct.
Right?
It's a little bit like starting with a Word template. And you can write your own letter, but you might want to start with a template
Yeah.
to get things
So we could save,
ease things.
could we save the templates to some flash drives that we just keep in here?
Yeah, and it's not actually a template, but it's
Yeah.
more a starting a
Yeah.
new starting point. So to save and load shows, that's done in a little window that pops up at the bottom here called the browser. You just hit the browser button and it switches to that. The browser is a little bit like the menu bar for the board. You've got options like file and exit and print and the sorts of usual suspects. And I can use the arrow keys or the mouse to move around in here. So I'm going to choose file. And you've got underneath file, you've got save, save as, open, new, things like that. New starts you with a completely plain show which has no information about lights are connected to it, ready for tomorrow's production of Into the Woods or whatever. The open, it lets you open a pre-existing show file. I made a temporary one which I'll probably rename to default or something like that before we leave today. So when I choose, I gave Dave back his flash drive.
Is there one right there?
No, I
Is that
don't.
right one there?
Oh, it's this one.
Probably
So-
have 10 in my purse.
There's a desk cap over the USB port here, but I can plug in a flash drive in the front here. And underneath, when I flip open this open tab, I've got Show File Archive, which is the hard drive, and then E, which is the flash drive that I just put in. So I can choose to open up E, and then there's a couple of shows here from other stuff that we've done in the past that I could open up. Likewise, I can go to Save As, and I can just double-click on Show File Archive or E, and it'll save a show file under a new name in that location. So if I double-click on Show File Archive, do we want to save? Yes. And I'm going to call this. You can hook up the keyboard too. So now it's saved that, including the Submaster settings and everything else they've done. You could have your own that you carry with you, or you could save it on the hard drive.
That will probably be used a lot by, with all the variety of ways that this is going to be.
That's sort of what we were
Like
guessing.
you were mentioning, like live TV, but even for shooting a film that wasn't live, you could have weather changes programmed, right?
Absolutely, cloudy
So-
day, sunny day.
Well, yeah, it's like the same park bench, but the clouds come in and the weather changes and the light changes. That would be really useful. You could go back and shoot that.
Absolutely. So I've got, I'm going to leave a couple of copies of this. There's a training manual that ETC distributes with every console, and it's a little bit generic because it has to be. This isn't the TV manual. This is the how does the average theater use this desk. So this may or may not be as useful, but I'll leave copies with you. It takes you through steps on how to set up a show and how to record Submasters. You can also record cues for scripted playback, but that's more useful in the theater setting than in the studio setting usually. So I'll leave you with copies of those. Does anybody have any questions? We're kind of approaching the end of the formal stuff, the list that we have to get through, but I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Where would you set those things in terms of the relationship to this window? We're going to have 4 monitors up there, right? Aren't we?
I would put it somewhere on this desk if we have good line of
So
sight.
the board and then the monitor, and you suggested a keyboard.
Yeah.
Or a keyboard makes sense if
I
we're
would
using a lot of
recommend a
flash drives.
Yeah.
What?
I would recommend a
Yeah,
keyboard.
yeah.
Because when you save the show, it's going to ask you what you want to label it and things like that. It's
That
a
makes
lot
it
easier
easier
than
to-
using the mouse to click the on-screen
Yeah.
keyboard.
And a small keyboard will rest on the back here too, so you don't necessarily have to think
Okay.
about a lot of real estate.
Lisa,
Okay.
any USB keyboard works.
Correct, any USB keyboard. And there's 6 USB ports in the back, so this isn't the only one. There's extras. It's just this is convenient.
Is this the monitor we will be using with the setup? Is it the one that has to be used, or
It
would
does not have to be used, but this monitor was provided with the
Yeah,
console.
I was
that-
just curious if a bigger one would be
Well,
useful.
Here's what I'll say about that. The aspect ratio on this is not easily found.
Okay.
And that is what the board is made to work with.
Okay.
So when you get a regular one that's a widescreen, it doesn't look quite right.
Okay, no, that's good info. Cool, I'm excited. I have to go teach now, I think, so if there's anything, is there any other piece of equipment that we need to videotape to be part of this?
You've seen everything as far as
Yeah.
we're concerned that needs to be seen. I'm sure there's 1,000 other things, but as far as lighting goes.
What, did I see, like, okay, in terms of the light fixtures, do they move in any way that is automatically
No.
controlled?
No, it's
So
all
anytime
manual.
an angle, someone's on a ladder, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's why there was so many, you weren't aware of it, but there were a lot of questions as to the angle that the lights should be set up at. And Jim Mosley and Mark Harvey were answering lots of questions about that.
So, and this shouldn't need to be moved.
No, I mean, right now it's basically set up to use that far corner. So
Right.
if you need to use a different space, then we would have to change things.
Is much